Video is going to talk about 3 different ways that I personally get ideas. They're not the only 3 ways, but these are the 3 that I tend to go back to most often. So the first way that I will get ideas, and I'll show you a couple examples as well. The first way that I get ideas is by thinking of a book or movie. So you may copy down this chart, and then the scene. Now, the scene doesn't have to be the whole thing thought out, but it's just that one part that makes you think of whatever it is that you're hoping to accomplish. It could also be a video game or TV show or whatever it is. Mine tend to be books because books are what stick with me the most. And so then what I'll do is I'll think of a book or a movie that has a scene in it that kind of messes with me. So for example, there's a book called The Raft, and this girl, the airplane crashes in the ocean, and she's now stuck on a raft in the middle of the ocean, hoping someone will find her, and she's got this dude who's passed out next to her, and that's really it. They're just floating. So in The Raft, there's a couple of scenes. One would be the airplane crash. I could take this scene as maybe an airplane crashes or a car crashes, or really it could be anything that all of a sudden stops working. Maybe you're on a roller coaster and it stops working. But I take this idea from the book that's already been created and then create my own version of it, because my brain likes to kind of have an idea of what someone's already done with it before. Let's see. Something else in The Raft that I can't think of right now, but it'll come to me. There's another book called Double Identity. So you're not writing down what I'm writing down, identity, unless you've read these books. You instead are writing down a book or a movie or a TV show that has stuck with you with that scene. Double Identity is by Margaret Haddix, and in the very beginning of the book, the mom is sitting in the front seat, sobbing hysterically. The dad is driving. He's totally stoic, just looking straight ahead. And the girl's in the back seat. She's confused as to what is happening right now. And essentially, they pull up to this house, and the mom and dad are like, "We're sorry, we love you. You have to live here now." And they leave. And there's a woman on the porch like, "Hey, welcome to my house." And the girl has no idea what's going on, and you don't find out till the end. So this idea of being like dropped somewhere. Now, I've kind of played this one out a few different ways. I have gone like the foster care route, where a girl has been dropped off and she doesn't know what's going on. I have done where the girl is she likes to cause some trouble. I have written where the character has no idea what's happening. I have written where this is the 5th or 6th place that she's been, and it's kind of like whatever. So there's this idea of being dropped off somewhere, not in the same fashion of the book, but the way that Haddix did that got me thinking about how that would work. Another example could be from the movie Frozen. That scene where Hans, you know that Hans is the bad guy. And that idea of betrayal would be something that I could pull from, where I could create a character who is super close. Now, given she wasn't super close to Hans, she'd only known him a day, but the main character is super close to somebody who then betrays her, and then something bad happens. I don't know. But this idea of betrayal from someone whom you trusted can be really tough. So think first of all about a book or a movie, TV show, whatever, that has a scene in it that you're like, man, that would be really fun to write about, or that would be really messed up, or whatever. I was talking to another group. There's a book called Unwind, and there is a scene in the book where if you don't want your kid, you can just bring them to someone else's house, and now they're responsible. So just like, I don't know, getting rid of children, but in the sense that they were living with you and they're kind of making you mad, and you're like, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to just move you to someone else. And so that's how they did that. So you can pause and jot down a couple ideas that you have. Try to get at least a couple. Building from someone, especially if you struggle with ideas, building from something that's already been created really helps me take this idea of how characters may feel. Clearly, I don't copy the scene because it's not my work, but it's the idea of what it is that happened in that scene that's sticking with me. You could even take Finding Nemo at the very beginning, where all of the eggs were eaten and destroyed, and then you have this idea that, you know, what if you're left it's just you and someone else. Like everyone else has died in some way or has run away or has disappeared or whatever, but you're left either by yourself or with a single other individual. Um, and then building off of that. The second way, so you can pause if you need to. The second way I get ideas, this one doesn't work quite as well with me unless I can tie it into a book or movie because I like to see the picture that's happening. But this one time and what if? So this is where you take some of the boring or the things that you've experienced in your life because you want to try to apply it to a fiction piece. And you write about, well, this one time there's a spider in my house, which we've all had a spider in your house. So if you want to write this down, go ahead. And then it's, well, what if the spider was human sized? Or what if the spider was in my house because he needed glasses? Now, some of these are ridiculous and I would never actually write about them, but the point is to brainstorm, not to have the most amazing story you've ever seen. This one time I was playing pig with my sons. We were playing basketball the other day. And what if the loser, something happened to the loser. Something happened. I don't know what that is yet. Oh, this one time we ate Peeps. And what if they came to life? Maybe begging not to be eaten. It'd be a hard sell for me. I'd be like, I don't know. Okay, so that could be where you take a simple thing that's happened in your life or not so simple thing. We had one time we went snorkeling and these jellyfish came all around us. So what if, this one time there were jellyfish while we were snorkeling? What if they were magical jellyfish taking us to a magic land? Or what if they were jellyfish circling prey ready to eat and their tentacles are made of razors? I don't know. And the number 3 are kind of my standby options. They're the good old, like, they tend to work for most people in writing. These are kind of my go-tos or my standby options. When I don't have anything else to write about, I take one of these routes. So one of them would be like a sports moment. So if you play sports, the way to make this the most authentic is to pick a sport that you actually play. I've never suited up in football gear and stood out there with a group chanting and things like that. So me talking about it, I could probably do it, but it wouldn't be as authentic as someone who's actually been in that moment. There's a different thing to experiencing something than not. Like Paris, France, I've never been to Paris, France, and therefore for me to write about it, I've done lots of research, I've seen lots of movies, studied French in high school, long time ago, but for me to write about it would be inauthentic because I've never actually stood in the locations in Paris, France that people talk about all the time. So consider things that you've actually experienced in a very direct way, and that will come through in your writing as well. So sports moments are a good one. Another one is this idea of a ghost or like a stalker, a stalking situation, because it's someone who shouldn't be there is there. Oftentimes these take place at night. Maybe there's a mysterious sound. Okay, so these tend to be good go-tos because we can create a single scene where something is happening that kind of creeps everybody out. Another go-to option that I will use is it's called the deathbed scene. And this could range from you being on the deathbed and your character dealing with finding out that he or she has some sort of disease. It could be, I've had stories of someone where you're the person sitting next to the deathbed and you're holding the hand while the machines are beeping. I had the story of the dog where they got picked up from school and had one last moment with the dog. So the deathbed scene is really this idea that someone is dying or is very, very, very sick, and you are choosing to be one of the characters who are kind of living through this moment with that character. Okay. Another one would be some sort of injury. This can be if you've experienced an injury. Again, me talking about breaking my arm is probably not going to be super authentic because it's not something I've experienced before, knock on wood. But I could probably do a little bit of talking or interview some people about what it was like, but consider injuries you've had as you apply them to characters in your story. The last option that I would say that's kind of a standby, it's not really my go-to, but I think of like pets and family, and I maybe like take their personalities and put it into a character and exaggerate it. So this is kind of that elevator idea, but pets, it could be what are my pets doing when I'm not home? Do they go to secret clubs during the day and I just think they're staying in the bedroom like they're supposed to? Or sometimes writing about the funny things that the people in my family do, or then creating a character who does those things in their own life. So these are the 3 ways that I can get ideas. I'm going to show a couple examples. If you already have an idea, you can go from there. This is kind of a deathbed scene. Mallory held a razor in her hand. It was quietly buzzing. Its monotone humming filling the quiet of the bathroom. She stared at her long chestnut-colored locks, wondering if she would be able to do it. This was not the first time she had stood exactly like this. 3rd time is a charm, right? So you know she's going to shave her head, so she probably has cancer. This is the 3rd time it's come back because it's 3rd time's a charm. She raised her arm, only inches away now. Just do it. If you don't, it will. The dreaded it. How long had it been since she had first found out? 4 months, 5? They had all started to blend together after the treatments had started. So I create a deathbed scene by the way that she found out about having cancer and whether or not she actually is able. Tears quietly rolled down her cheeks as she saw one piece fall and then another, strand after strand littering the side of the sink, edge of the toilet, the immaculately clean tile floor, and then it was over. So this idea of shaving your head before cancer has you do it. This one right here, the little girl strayed. This is about someone who is being left somewhere. So that's the story of that I was telling you about. The little girl stared straight ahead at the disappearing car. What had just happened? She inhaled deeply as the car dipped below the horizon line. Gone. She was alone in a strange place. What had she done to deserve this? She held tightly to the only suitcase she had ever been allowed to take, a tattered, faded blue one with wheels. In it, 2 pairs of jeans, 4 t-shirts, and 5 pairs of socks and underwear. Oh, and blank, her stuffed bear. She had had him for as long as she could remember. So she doesn't know what's going on. And then finally, here's another snippet little piece. I feel like I'm losing it a little bit here. Ah, the horn honked incessantly. I'm coming, Maggie huffed as I don't know what word I want, so I just write one that's kind of like what I want. Harshly grabbed her backpack and gym clothes. Why am I always rushing? Finally, she headed outside. Emily, her best friend since 2nd grade, was waiting, not so patiently, behind the wheel of her new BMW. Maggie was totally jealous. She wished her family could afford to buy a new car when she had turned 16. What use was her newly printed license without a car? So they drive to school that way. So these are some different pieces that I have put together. This one right here, it had been a mistake, a truly awful, horrendous mistake, a plan seemingly so well thought out that went awry in ways that could never be foreseen. But how do you say that to her mother? How do you explain the misstep that led to the irreversible consequences? How? You can't. So you just sit silently and take it as she screams and screams at you. How could you? What were you thinking? Why? Questions she doesn't really want answered, questions so different than those the police had asked, so filled with anger and hatred and devastation, every ounce of it directed right at me, for me. I stared down at the table, unable to meet her fierce gaze. So something happened. I don't necessarily know what happened. I just know that the mom is clearly upset about it, and this is the friend who was doing that with her. So hopefully this maybe gave you a couple ideas. Go back to the resources that you have, your experiences with movies and books and things like that. Find text that inspires you and look at what that writer did, because they do it better than any of us. So, okay, see ya.